Originally featured in the June 1997 issue of Guitar World, the Summer of Loud issue, Taco Hell by Jeff Gilbert. Guitar World's Jeff Gilbert makes a break for the border with Pantera and Kiss. Mexico City. It's 6 o'clock in the morning and the temperature has already climbed to 80 degrees. I find myself part of a team of roadies, everyone the size of a small building, unpacking several semi-trailer trucks crammed with rented speakers, billion-channel soundboards, 10-ton lighting rigs, dozens of guitars, and enough drums to jumpstart Mardi Gras. Sweat is beginning to run down my back and torso like an overflowing toilet. A nightmare? Nope. It's just my latest writing assignment dreamed up by those treacherous bastards at Guitar World. It's simple, they told me. Pantera is opening up for Kiss at Mexico City Sports Palace, and we want you to be there. You know, hang with the band and give us a feel of what it's like to travel with heavy metal's finest. It sounded like fun. What they didn't tell me was that in order to help defray expenses, the deal included volunteering my services with the road crew. One of my co-workers takes 5 to urinate on my shoes. As I curse the entire Guitar World staff and their families, my thoughts are mercifully interrupted. How'd you expect me to do my damn job right if I don't have any beer? A roadie complains loudly. Priorities being what they are, the beer is quickly and systematically removed from cartons and packed in a personalized ice chest. Bottle openers are brandished like switchblades. The sound of beer caps hitting the pavement is followed by a symphony of unrestrained belching. The sweet sounds which reverberate in the darkened, cavernous arena. Breakfast is served. 9 a.m. Everyone except the first shift crew is sleeping off last night's performance. Despite being added to the bill at the last minute, Pantera turned in a muscular performance worthy of a headliner, rewarding their young Mexican fans with irreversible ear damage. Though most of the city's teeming millions are already hard at work, it'd be hours until the elevators in the plush 40-story Presidente Intercontinental Hotel are filled with groggy rock stars and blurry-eyed guitar techs whose clothes, which conveniently double as pajamas, reek of Texas aftershave, tequila, and vomit. 11 a.m. Pantera sleeps. A group of teenagers wearing Kiss t-shirts and clutching pins have gathered just beyond the outdoor concierge station and set up unblinking vigil. Obviously, they're not familiar with the slumber patterns of American rock stars. It will be a long wait. 1 p.m. Pantera still sleeps. The kids outside pass the time by singing Rock and Roll All Night. When this somehow segues into Row, Row, Row Your Boat, a few of the waiting taxi drivers join in with gusto. The only thing missing is an Ace Frehley solo. 3 p.m. and they still sleep. A few up at the crack of noon drum techs bravely venture out into the sweltering heat in search of hangover food. Their efforts are rewarded when they discover that the local El McDonald's has an unlimited supply of greasy fries and egg McBurros. 5 p.m. Pantera are just getting up. They're finally come down to the lobby, their rumpled duds and conspicuous sunglasses proclaiming that everyone did, indeed, rock and roll all night. But their slow movements and pained expressions suggest that any attempt to party every day is out of the question. Clearly, no one in Pantera is a morning person. 5:30 p.m. Like convicted murderers being transported to the state pen, Kiss is secretly escorted through a side door into a heavily guarded vehicles. Pantera and crew, on the other hand, amble into promoter-provided family vans. There is little conversation, with everyone preferring to yawn and rub last night's whiskey out of their eyes. Talk in the van slowly turns to last night's alcoholic debauchery evaluation of their own performance. Man, I thought we did pretty good considering that we weren't even advertised on the bill. And ultimately to Kiss, Pantera, all of whose members are card-carrying drill sergeants in the Kiss Army, do little to hide their excitement over the chance to tour with their all-time favorite band, especially Dimebag Darrell. Dude, when we were first told that it might happen, I just freaked. I didn't even want to think about it and get my hopes up in case it fell through, says the guitarist. And when our management finally confirmed it for real, I couldn't even sleep. Memories of watching Kiss, always from the front row, are recounted by the Panterans to the accompaniment of enthusiastic high fives, and the adrenaline begins to flow. We're going to kick some serious ass tonight. I'll tell you what, predicts Daryl, barely able to sit still. 6 p.m. The van pulls into the arena grounds and right into an improvised flea market filled with bootleg Kiss and Pantera merchandise. Thousands upon thousands of spectacular t-shirts of every imaginable color covered with the band's logos and the likeness of the individual members. These shirts look better than the ones Winterland makes, notes Vinnie Paul, Pantera's strongman drummer. He presses his face against the van window and drools over the striking designs. That's the lifespan of a typical bootleg t-shirt is usually 3 washes on gentle cycle. No bleach, disturbs exactly no one. The shirts are selling like burritos at an average of 80 pesos, $10 a pop. The salesman has no official competition. There are no laws governing bootlegging in Mexico, so Kiss and Pantera don't even bother bringing merchandise to the shows. 6:15 p.m. Photos 1 and 2. Daryl, a wad of fresh pesos burning a hole in his pocket, says, "Dude, I want to go out there and get me some shirts." Val, Pantera's intimidating bodyguard and 7-foot mascot, leads the way beyond the relative protection of the arena's chain-link fence. Daryl, Vinny, a few production assistants, and this Guitar World correspondent, valiantly battling a thunderous case of Montezuma's Revenge, slowly wade into a sea of several hundred metal-starved maniacs. Daryl, with his unmistakable hot pink beard, is immediately mobbed. At first, it's hard to tell whether he is being surrounded because he's famous guitar hero or because he's a Texan with a fistful of dollars. 3 very young virginal Mexican girls approach Daryl, giggling and saying something that sounds like he has a Chevy in his beard. Not familiar with the local colloquialisms, Daryl shrugs and heads for a wall covered with Kiss shirts. "What do they mean by Chevy?" I ask a kid who speaks English. "Not Chevy," he laughs. "They say he has a cherry beard. You know, all red." Val, whose giant arms resemble tank turrets, effectively keeps the rank and file away from everyone's facial hair as his boys do some sidewalk shopping. "How much for that shirt right there? The one with Gene on the front with the devil horns. Give me 2 of those." "What? You mean 160 pesos for that? F you, man." Daryl is on fire. Hundreds of boot, Kiss, and Pantera shirts are spread out on the ground as the merchants possessed by the spirit of free enterprise back out their prices. Daryl, who's having a bit of trouble converting pesos to dollars in his mind, simply reaches into his pocket and starts pulling wads of money while grabbing as many hats, posters, Kiss clocks, and shirts as he can carry. Finally, out of cash, their arms sagging with the new wardrobe, Daryl and Vinny follow the wide swath cut by Val's mountainous form back to the arena, a throng of fans swimming along like pilotfish. Daryl reaches into his pocket and tosses out a handful of Pantera guitar picks, creating a pile of fans battling each other like dogs for the prized souvenirs. Amazed, laughing, he tosses another handful of picks in the air, more scrambling. More dust flying, more heads banging. "It's like feeding barnyard chickens," chuckles a production assistant. 7 p.m. Pantera's dressing room is furnished with several couches, a chair or two, and a table sagging with Crown Royal, Seagrams, beer, and several thousand disposable cups. Daryl walks in with his arms straining with Kiss shirts, taking care not to crease his prized find, a glossy Kiss Pantera tour poster. "This is so effing cool," he gushes, holding it up for all to worship. Someone calls for a celebration. Styrofoam cups are lined up like firing squad targets, and Daryl, the band's self-appointed bartender, expertly fills 7 cups with whiskey and a splash of Coca-Cola. "These are called Blacktooth," he grins, handling the potent drinks to everyone in the room. A group cheer and down the hatch, cups piling up on the floor like so many Mexicans scrambling for picks. A Pantera tradition of sorts, this drinking ritual is frequently repeated through the night and well into the next morning. 7:15 p.m. 45 minutes until Pantera take the stage. Gene Simmons, a baseball cap on his massive head and a blue denim shirt draping his considerable torso, pokes his head into the dressing room for a quick greeting before being distracted by a stunning young girl wearing a rubber band for pants out in the hall. Ace Frehley wanders by moments later. Hey Ace, you gonna watch us play? Asks Daryl. I'm depressed, Ace frowns. I'll be putting on my makeup when you guys are on stage. That's okay, offers Daryl. Unquestionably, the most rabid Ace Frehley fan in the entire Southern Hemisphere. We'll be down front watching you. Ace smiles, bids a mumbled, okay, see you later, and meanders down the hall, his knees bent together just like they are on stage. Ace effing Freely, man. Another toast is called for. More drinks. Dude, we're almost out of whiskey, says Daryl to road manager Guy Sykes. A ghetto blaster turned up beyond the point of distortion blares out Biohazard and Black Sabbath, rallying the band's energy. Everyone begins to pace in anticipation of the show. Singer Phil Anselmo, already a caged animal, positions himself on the floor and proceeds to knock out a rapid series of sit-ups. Each Panteran takes a turn at stretching and loosening up with foul assistance by realigning everyone's neck and back cartilage with bone-shifting brute force. So physically demanding is Pantera's gut-ripping metal that the members require chiropractic treatment before and after each performance. Photos 5 and 6. More drinks. Daryl pours faster. They listen to one last song before taking the stage. Then Lizzie's shredding, thunder and lightning, hunching over. Rex shoulders his bass and deep-set eyes, bloodshot but focused. Vinny pounds on an overturned garbage can. Daryl straps on his washburn and plays along to limber up his fingers, singing a metal karaoke. Like thunder and lightning, god dang it's so exciting. Guy Sykes announces it's showtime. Pantera's ready to eat rocks and crap asphalt. Lights go down and a hungry roar shakes the building. Phil grabs the mic and greets Mexico with a guttural growl that would have members of Obituary soiling their death metal diapers. Pantera erupts into new level, and for the next hour, chaos reigns over the sports palace. Gargantuan wrists fly like teeth in a Tex-Mex barroom brawl. A blinding splash of light reveals that nearly every other person in the audience is wearing Kiss makeup. It's a safe wager that after tonight, there will be hundreds of new Pantera fans showing up with Chevy beards. Phil blows a well-placed Scabas knot 30 feet into the crowd. His elegant gesture is met with the kind of approval usually reserved for acts of great heroism, and there's a wild scramble for the Flemish souvenir. Like thunder and lightning, god dang it's so exciting. 9 p.m. After the show, Daryl corners me and asks the inevitable, so what'd you think? I've seen Pantera numerous times, I respond seriously, but this is the first time I've felt Pantera. Daryl smiles. Feels good, doesn't it? Well, that depends. If you don't mind having the Morin pins that hold your lungs in place blown out of their sockets, yes, it feels good. Pantera retire to their dressing room, alone. Give them a little while, advises Sykes diplomatically. Needing a moment or two myself to find what was left of my brain, I wander off to pester Kiss. Sykes, who's been with Daryl and company since their 1988 album Power Metal, disappears into their room carrying 4 more bottles of whiskey. It won't take long for Pantera to recover. 9:15 p.m. Kiss's dressing room door is open a crack, and Gene and Ace can be seen putting on their rock regalia. Paul Stanley, wearing a shower cap to keep his hair from getting in the way of his paint job, puts the final touches on the famous black star over his right eye. Peter Criss is sitting on a couch whacking his legs with drumsticks. Business as usual for the hottest band in the land. It may be just another show to Kiss, but for nearly all of these still screaming kids out front who weren't even born when Kiss removed their makeup with the release of Lick It Up, it's the event of a lifetime. Ticket prices per show are, by American standards, low, 156 pesos, $12.50 for the nosebleed seats, and 546 pesos, $43.75 for the floor. Sitting, standing, or face down. The average wage in Mexico is anywhere from 20 to 50 pesos a day, 350 to 850. Which means that a lot of people just spent a week's wage to see Kiss. 9:30 p.m. With cannons blazing, Kiss hit the stage. With drinks in hand, Pantera rush out and edge themselves into the front row. Much to the delight of the crowd, Daryl, high-fiving everyone around him, settles into air guitaring along with Ace. Rex, Vinny, and Phil stay closer to the side, but rage no less joyously. Pantera and the crowd, the same crowd they just finished immolating, gradually bond and become one. Together, they do their damnedest to get Gene to acknowledge them from the stage. The God of Thunder, however, cannot be distracted from a buxom blonde shaking her fine body in the third row. 11:15 p.m. Kiss build to a final crescendo. Peter croons Beth, the second of 3 encores, triggering a loud ovation from the delirious crowd. But it was the danceable I Was Made for Loving You played earlier in the show that scored a direct hit in the city where disco never really died. The show ends with Kiss wrapping things up with Rock and Roll All Night amid a 4th of July display of fireworks, near-miss explosions, and the retooled lyric, "You drive us wild when we drive you loco." Daryl spills his drink. The musicians who still have their hearing and the use of their limbs left return to the dressing room. "Now it's time to do some serious drinking," smiles Daryl, and everyone jams into the vans heading back to the hotel. The night finally cools down, but livers are just getting warmed up. 12:30 a.m. Mexico's Hard Rock Cafe is not unlike any of the other Hard Rock cafes around the world. The only real difference being that there's a giant album cover of Paul McCartney and Wings' London Town hanging above the fireplace instead of in it. An autographed bass guitar donated by Sting that is mounted on a wall right next to the kitchen is badly marred, a victim of the swinging doors that bash into it every time a steaming burger is hustled out to a waiting table. Though the employees speak little English, they all recognize the international drinky-drinky motion and quickly fetch platters of Coronas and shots of Jack Daniels and tequila for our table. The party goes into overdrive when Daryl, seeking to emulate his rock idol, swallows a mouthful of rum, lights a napkin, and blows a near-perfect Gene flame into the crowded room, splattering Linda McCartney's face with alcohol and singeing some Wings memorabilia in the process. 2 a.m. Gene and Ace stroll into the packed restaurant, nearly causing a riot. Gene, spotting the same gorgeous girl he leered at from the stage all night, corners the lass. All eyes humbly watch the master go to work. "Ace, dude, pull up a chair," invites Daryl. Freely seats himself between Daryl and the Guitar World correspondent, who is busy trying to keep from hurling up the several gallons of whiskey, tequila, and beer he's recently consumed. The smell of smoldering nachos and chicken wings wafting up from the table is helping things along nicely. 2:30 a.m. Dozens of locals crowd around the glass door. 2:30 a.m. Dozens of locals crowd around the glass doors, no doubt impressed with the first glimpse of live, drunk rock stars up close and personal. Waiters are sweating to keep up with Daryl's orders. "Hey man, another round. Get on it, son." In a toxic, alcoholic haze, I end up staring at the back of Ace Frehley's head as he talks shop with Daryl. The back of Ace's head is no different from anyone else's head, except that it's Ace's head. And where Ace goes, so does his head, presumably. There are many things I want to ask the back of Ace's head, but my lips feel like 2 pieces of bologna slapping together. Rex, sharing my plight, just shrugs and drinks another shot. Ace, a confirmed teetotaler, gulps down glass after glass of ginger ale. It's time to leave and get another quart, and spoons his way through several strawberry sundaes. If I didn't know any better, I'd swear Ace, his speech slurred, his eyes half closed, was getting drunk on ice cream. "Hey Ace, how do you get that tone on the intro to King of the Nighttime World?" asks Daryl. 3:15 a.m. The restaurant manager enters the room bearing gifts. Denim Hard Rock Cafe jackets, leather vests, and t-shirts for all. Ace tries on several coats until he finds one that fits. Mayonnaise and cocktail napkins are passed around for autographs. Seizing the moment, Daryl corrals Ace into posing for a photo with him. "In case you haven't seen it for a while." Daryl lifts his shirt to reveal a colorful tattoo of Ace Frehley on his chest. Visibly impressed, Ace smiles and wipes some ice cream from his face. "Hey Gene, man, you guys rock tonight," gushes Daryl as everyone prepares to leave. Gene smiles, leans over and kisses Daryl on the forehead. That's about as much as Gene will get tonight. The young girl he'd been hitting on for the last several hours had to leave. She has to get up early for junior high school tomorrow. 4:30 a.m. The restaurant has been closed for hours, but Pantera keeps ordering more drinks. Only when the bartender brings the tab does everyone decide to pack it in for the night. The bill comes to a whopping 4,100 pesos, and those who are able to stand without assistance makes for the door without paying. Sykes hands a giant wad of currency to a waiter. The kid looks like someone just kicked his pet burro. For all their high five rolling, Pantera and Kiss have stiffed him for a tip. Guitar World to the rescue. Here, I say, offering him every bit of cash left in my pocket. The waiter gives me a funny look and walks away, no doubt unable to express his thanks for the handsome $6 gratuity. This is Matt with Metal Tunes. I hope you enjoyed the article. I have a ton of old guitar magazines, so if you like hearing this kind of content, I'll be posting it pretty regularly. If you have any recommendations, just send them my way. Just like and subscribe.